Welcome back to Phillip Island, and as you can see at the moment, a number of motorcycles out on the circuit, just circulating, warming up their tyres, and this will be the Glen Cameron Aussie 125 race. Just to explain the difference is that these bikes are exactly the same as what we see racing in the World Championship. The difference being that not all our Aussie riders are allowed to run in the World Championship class. 4 Aussie wildcard riders were selected this weekend, and those that weren't selected as wildcards lining up here on the grid for the first of 9 support races this weekend. Now for spectators around the circuit, those of you that have braved the conditions today, the Australian Grand Prix, the Cinzano 2004 Grand Prix this season, more support races than most other Grand Prix. The British Grand Prix, for example, only 1 or 2 support races. Here in Australia, we've got 9, so action-packed throughout the whole program. And the 125s taking their place on the grid at the moment. They'll be heading off for the first of 3 races, and we'll just run through some of the grid positions for you. There's a huge field here of local 125s. In fact, 43 riders went out to qualify. Only 40 were allowed to start, so 3 of them have actually missed out on a start. All 3 of them from New Zealand, so they've travelled all the way over here, haven't been able to meet the qualifying cut-off of 40 riders, so they'll start further down the grid. Andrew Willey will start out of position 1 from Mick Kelly, Brian Starring, who's a scratching from this event, and Malcolm Essler also a scratching because they're running in the main GP. Second row of the grid, 5th fastest in qualifying was Matthew Graham. Tim Inkster on bike 59 out of position 6. Tom Hatton all the way from Western Australia out of position 7, and Peter Scott out of position 8. Now they're all on Honda RS 125s. In fact, Honda RS 125s occupy the top 25 positions all the way back to slot number 26, which is Ryan Taylor from Pakenham Yamaha.
Yeah, there's some interesting things here. They've just finished their Australian Championship about 5 weeks ago. So these guys have been still got the race face on. The last race here was here at Phillip Island 5 weeks ago in completely different conditions to what we got now. It was diabolical conditions 5 weeks ago with the track flooding and everything. But hopefully, well, now we've got blue skies for the rest of the day, hopefully. So the likes of Andrew Willey, Mick Kelly. Andrew Willey, a bit of a wild card. He didn't compete the Australian Championships until the last round. A local boy here, and probably gives a good indication of why he's on pole position. But hard charger, been around a number of years. Mick Kelly won an Australian 250cc production title in 2000. Brian Starring, who actually took out the Australian 125cc championship this year on his bike, he qualified 3rd, but as Ken Wootton just said, he's taking his place in the wildcard in the World Championship 125 race, so he'll be a non-starter. But there'll be a couple here like Matthew Graham, Tim Inkster, Tom Hatton from Western Australia. He was doing well during the year too, so there's a few there. Also down the field a bit, Paul Campbell and Peter Galvin. Peter Galvin returning from injury after a super motard accident at Olympic Park in Sydney a couple of months ago. He broke his collarbone, so he's probably still feeling a bit gingerly. And Paul Campbell, also one of the hard chargers of the Australian local scene, probably coming to grief with the conditions yesterday, Peter. It was a bit, how's your father? Well, they started off in the wet, then it started to dry out, so a few of them would have been caught unstuck with it.
Similar to what it was this morning, Braxton.
At least it's nice and dry up here, that's for sure.
Hey, well, it's dry out and track now, in good conditions, a little bit windy, but it's good to see. And it's going to be difficult for these guys because their sessions previous to this have been in mixed conditions. So now it's full dry track, and it'll be a bit of the thing who got the best setting or who's picked the best setting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lucky dip at the moment, isn't it? But it's a 5-lap race, I do believe, a 6-lap race this one, with the 125s, and as we said, the first of their 3 races for today's program. In the starters' hands,
they seem to be waiting on. Oh no! Now we've got a green flag, ready to roll. And off they go.
Good start from the second position on the grid. Mick Kelly got a good flyer off the starters. Oh, someone's run into the wall there. There's a couple of bikes down trying to get through the new pit lane. I don't think we've seen the pit wall exit. This will have to be a red flag, I'd say,
sure, yeah.
There's 3 bikes down. There's a rider line in the middle of the couple of riders down there. So that's not the very best start. We want to see this, and maybe I'd say the advertising hoardings for Cinzano, then it goes white. They mightn't have seen the end of the actual pit wall. What do you reckon, Pete?
Yeah, I think there was an impact because there was a very slow rider off the start, and I think there may have been a rear end impact, and that's caused that to happen. That's terrible.
And I'd say the red flag has come out. We haven't seen any. They're still barreling through Honda Corner at the moment. Hopefully they can get the debris off the track, and these guys can continue on as they exit the first hairpin for the first of their 8 laps of this magnificent Phillip Island layout. Now basking in great sunshine, but one of the riders down there is getting attended to at the moment and just trying to pick some numbers up. It's Omar Kalik from New South Wales, it looks like, on bike number 86. We're just seeing there's no red flags out here on pit straight at the moment, on Gardner Straight, but they're coming round over Lukey Heights. They're not really motoring at race pace by
no, it is. The riders have got their hand up now, so it must have been a red flag, which is, yes. So it's been red flag, which is unfortunate start to the race in the weekend's racing, but hopefully the riders are okay and we can get this race back underway.
Yeah, the most critical time of the race is the first few hundred metres of 40 guys trying to wrestle for positions to get into the fast doing corner, the turn 1 here at Phillip Island. So hopefully that we'll be able to clear this up pretty quick. The red flag being waved on our monitors and on the super screen at the moment. So these guys will probably come back to the form up on the grid. What do you reckon? They'll go out for another warm-up lap and then come down and face the starter again?
Yeah, I think so, and they'll reduce the race distance by that amount of fuel, so it'll be 2 laps less in race distance, or if they're wanting to run the full distance, some riders may have to add some fuel.
So was bike 86 involved in that, as we said, Omar Kalik, bike number 52, which was one of the guys at the back of the field as well, I think down the field a bit, James Dodrell from South Australia on his Protector Paint Honda, and bike number 54, just looking through it, Candace Scott, the young girl, and it's 17, 18-year-old that's taking part in the event. She qualified in 25th position, so we could be waiting a while at the moment while we clear the track and make it all safe for everybody else, and more importantly make sure all the riders are A-OK.
The medical crew are still working on the 2 of the riders down there. Hopefully only
superficial
injuries, but keeping them still to be sure that there is nothing more significant.
Yeah, well, I'd say we've got some of the best medical response teams in the world here. They come straight onto the scene, and that wall that don't get pushed back very far when you hit it.
No. One of the things I was going to say, guys, is that the bikes on the grid, they're faced with a bit of a problem now. You can't keep a 125 idling and revving along because of the difficulties with its 2-stroke engine overheating. It doesn't run a fan. The other thing too is the guys won't have tyre warmers to put onto their bikes while they're out on the straight here, so they need a quick decision from the officials as to whether they're going to go back to the pits, whether the race is going to be shortened, or whether they're hopeful of moving on. But most important, of course, is to treat the injured riders who are lying there just under the Cinzano bridge on the exit of the pits.
And sitting there in the sun, it's getting pretty warm down there at the moment. The wind's not taking that much, and just sitting there in leathers, you'd tend to warm up pretty quick. A lot of the riders pushing their bikes to pit wall just to get off and stretch the legs. It gets pretty cramped there, especially if you're over about 5 foot tall sitting on any of these ones, the little 125, the smallest bikes in all of senior road racing. Mick Kelly waving at the crowd. He's on television for the first time in a while, and he's not even racing. So in his Fairbairn Cranes Honda RS 125, took the championship right to the wire this year, down here at Phillip Island, the last round of the 7-round series held back in last month, September, about 5 weeks ago. It'll be interesting to see how much time is lost if they go, because it's a pretty critical timetable with the premier classes that are accounted for first. But we've got Andrew Willey and Mick Kelly having a chat there on the grid.
The ambulance is now being brought out to put the riders in and take them down to the medical centre for further evaluation. It's an unfortunate start to the racing weekend here at the Cinzano GP, but occasionally this does happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the sport we're involved in. It's just one of the things, like especially the critical start line where anything can happen. Everybody's trying to get round, and as we alluded to, one of the slower bike got a bad start, probably missed a gear or something on the change, and just got in the way of one of the faster guys coming from behind. So they're in the best care at the moment. The response team is very responsive without putting too much of a pun on it, but these guys on the grid themselves will be wondering what's the next step. Do they get, what laps do they get? Obviously in the control tower at the moment there's a lot of talking going on, but also there's a lot of people there in pit lane at the moment, Pete, just ogling all that exotica that we've all come to see and hear, and it's a pity up here you get a bit of a muffle but of those MotoGP bikes, but going down the straight there this morning, just the sound of them on full noise is just simply amazing.
It is amazing, yeah, and this is a great opportunity for people to take the pit walk and have a look in the sheds. All the sheds are open, and they get a full eyes view of the bikes. But as you said, the sound is incredible and somewhat deafening at times, and it makes this box up here shake along with the wind. So it's pretty good, and we'll see them back on track at I think at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So it's something to look forward to.
Can't see too many of the riders hanging around. They must be just gone off to have their lunch break as well, and probably doing a bit of debrief with their team crew chiefs and all their mechanics and stuff. There'll be a lot of questions being asked at the moment, because from the drying conditions, which way do they head? Obviously they're going to stiffen things up a bit, but how far are they going to do things to try and get into the critical part? Because now they've got to take full advantage of this fine weather in case anything happens tomorrow and the weather does close in again. But the MotoGP, the 125s will be pretty critical as well, because they were all on a wet track, and they'll be coming out on a completely dry track with a lot more heat than what was there this morning.
Yeah, no, it looks like the conditions are going to be fine this hour, and we look forward to having the first qualifying good fine conditions with some exciting times being put in. I would imagine that this weekend we shall see some sub-30s. Well, I think we'll break into the 29s, and which will be very exciting for Phillip Island.
So all the riders are asking many questions as we are at the moment, as waiting for these the ambulances and medical response teams to clear the debris and get things underway for the first of our Glen Cameron Group Aussie 125 races. First of 3 over the weekend, along with the Australian Superbike, sponsored by Express Post, and also the Denso Supersport race, some of that. And you'll see some, if you've never been to the track before to see the Aussie Superbikes and Supersports, you're in for a treat, because this track turns on some of the best racing you'll see in the domestic guys around the country whatsoever. Every year they seem to turn it on, and the likes of Sean Giles and Shannon Johnson will be doing their best to entertain you as they entertain themselves out on the track.
Yeah, now the track looks like it's been cleaned up. Vehicle's just moving off, and if there is to be a restart, it should be very soon.
You can see a couple of the guys there and their hands explaining the story of what went on as they talk to each other through what happened.
the thing with 125s, they are quite hard to get off the line, little engine, and trying to get it off, and you've got to slip the clutch a lot, and someone's just let it out a bit too much, bogged the engine down. That's basically stops the bike, and then someone's ricocheted off the back of one and then hit the
it's sort of like a big
pit
snowball
wall
effect.
Bringing down two other riders at the same time. Okay, the race looks like it's been reduced in laps down to 6 laps, and that'll allow the bikes to finish without having a refuel. So we should be underway shortly again and get some action on track.
Officials letting all the riders know that it is a 6-lap journey.
All the riders getting warm, starting their own bikes out on the gritty. Good thing they're 125s.
You're lucky they're not Duke Addies, that's for sure.
Exactly.
And we'll probably get the one, Brendan Ferrari will hold up the warm-up lap sign on the Cinzano Bridge there on Gardner Straight. Once they know that all the engines have started and warming the things up and warming the tyres up, you'd be trying as hard as you could there because they would have cooled off dramatically, Peter.
Yeah, now it's a bit of worry, but they will get one warm-up lap, so hopefully they'll all just bed the tyres in and get the temperature back into them as much as they can on that lap, and then we'll be off to a restart.
All right. Sorry to get the message to you earlier. Okay.
We're all ready now, so we'll have a field of 37 with the 3 riders not backing up for this one.
Huge field.
Yeah, it is.
Great
It's very well subscribed from the titular classes all around Australia and some from New Zealand. And also during this weekend, there's an Australia versus New Zealand Oceania Challenge amongst the classes as well. So it's a few Kiwis hoping there to steal a bit of thunder, I suppose, a bit of Bledisloe Cup of bike racing at the moment. But with a couple of the Kiwis not qualifying, it's given the Aussies a bit of a head start. Not that we rub it in around here.
No. Okay, we're off on the
warm-up lap there, the green flag to let the track clear, and still some of them getting away to a slow start. But hopefully we'll get through this warm-up lap with the 6 laps to go and have an incident-free start to the race. But good healthy crowd again for the Friday too, Peter.
Yeah, it's great to see people out there. It was great to see them out there early and braving the conditions. It's certainly much better now. If you weren't here earlier, we've had very, very, very mixed conditions this morning with hailstorms and rain and wet track throughout the 125. Just almost coming dry towards the end of it, and then a big dump prior to the Moto GP going out, and then a drying track which poured some quite a spectacle riders out there on soft tyres, leaving nice big black squiggly lines all over the asphalt, and chopping and changing at the end, finally getting in some very good times right at the finish.
I reckon we'll see, if this stays this way this afternoon with the tailwind down the straight, I reckon we'll see some pretty sensational top speeds and lap times as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be interesting. I'm sure there's a few riders out there really keen to get into the 29s because it's never been done around here, and I think they went so close last year. It was a 30.1 from memory, and they'll be trying to do that again, so it's going to be great. But
we should open a book on who will be the first one to crack a 30, because I think Rossi's been around here in private testing and doing a 129 earlier in the year when he jumped on the Yamaha for one of the first times.
But being an unofficial test, it was an unofficial time, so we need one with a stamping.
And sometimes you do fudge the figures, as they say, just to psych out the opposition.
Okay, coming around now to line up again for the restart with 6 laps to run. It's Andrew Willie, who got off to an appalling start in the first start, and he was lucky enough not to have a problem, but he's back there, and I'm sure he's hoping that he can have a better start in this restart.
Yeah, he's just off the bike having a look at the front end of it at the moment. I know what he's found there. That's
he's pulling
ducting off the radiator, was
yeah,
that it?
that's Mick Kelly. He's must have been running too hot. They tape the radiators up because these bikes, none of these racing bikes have thermostats, so you regulate the temperature of the engine with tape covering the radiator, and obviously it was running on that starting low warm-up lap, and he's got down off the bike, pulled a couple of strips of duct tape off. So it looks like we've already got a green flag, and here we go for a restart.
It should be interesting between Willie and Kelly. They're great mates off the track, but once they get on it, they're on, and Kelly gets a great start. Willie's the one that's bogged down on the line, dropping back to about 4 spot off the line there, as they all make it away safely this time and negotiate Doon corner for the first of their 6-lap journey. But it's Kelly that into the lead there off second position on the grid, and Paul Campbell on the bright orange redback painting around the outside, finding lines they're not there with bike number 85. Graham there. Matthew Graham from New South Wales slipping up in the second spot, and three wide round Southern Loop. That's not for the faint-hearted.
First time down through turn 3, try to keep it on the track with all the wind trying to blow them off.
So it was Kelly from Graham with Peter Scott in third spot, hard on the brakes coming into the first hairpin. And it's still Kelly, and Graham's closed right up on him there. Made a bit of a gap of about 6 bike lengths over the rest of the field. Kelly sneaks a look over his shoulder to see where he is. He's probably a bit surprised that his mate Andrew Willie isn't right up his exhaust pipe. Coming around Siberia for the first time, Kelly runs it really wide through there, but already putting the Fairbound Cranes into a good commanding position. And there's bike number 81, Willie's recovered to move up into third spot. And in fourth spot, it's bike number 61, Peter Scott. Coming up over Lukey Heights. The wind to be picking them up there. That swirling around the wind here. It's not really coming from the one direction at the moment, but whichever way it does around here, it always plays havoc with the handling of a 125. So light, as we were saying in the morning's qualifying session, picking the bikes up and pushing them from one side of the track to the other. Coming down through turn 12. Probably nearly full tilt on these little 125s in top gear. 5th gear, they'll change up the 6th gear. Down the straight to complete their first lap, and that's Willie, and I think Andrew Willie will move into second spot, relegating Graham to third on bike number 85. But now we'll see it. Andrew Willie, the local boy, gives chase and deep into Doon corner. That's a move on his mate Mick Kelly. Sorry, mate. Just went in there a bit hot, and he actually backed off a bit, I think, give him a bit of a wave. But he'll say they'll have a frosty treat about that one later on, I'd say. These two great mates on and off the track. But Willie, I'll get the favour repaid very shortly. Here comes Mick Kelly through on the inside into turn 3. You wouldn't think they were good mates the way they're carrying on at the moment.
It might not be a frosty treat after the race. The way they're going. Good way to broaden the friendship. Eh?
Here he comes, Willie.
Yeah, he stuck it in there again.
Yeah, Kelly up the inside doing well here. These two are going to put on a very entertaining display for the next 5.5 laps. We've got a great field all the way through down to the 37 riders here, but obviously focusing at the front on our Michelin Super Screens. With Andrew Willie in a prime spot coming up over Lukey Heights. Still on the gas, they'll straighten it up and get hard on the brakes in the MG. A good defensive line by Kelly. Shuts the door, shoves it across in front of Willie. And Willie, good drive out of there. He might move up the inside into the old cops. See if he gets a good drive under the straight to slipstreaming down Gardner Straight.
Oh, Mick Kelly seems to have the good gearing to drive off the turns, but Willie seemed to put the gearing under for the speed, so you watch the difference down here. It's quite amazing. If he can grab the slipstream, he'll just go scooting past down into turn 1, swapping and changing.
See if he can hang on to this lead now with Mick Kelly having a look at him, see where he's where he doesn't need to know. They've been racing together for that long. They know each other's point around here, both Victorians. Kelly, Willie, Graham, then Peter Campbell, then Peter Scott in 5th place at the moment, through Grogan in 7th, Smith, then Hood, Frost and Van Hoof are leading out the top 11, and Bell in 12th spot. Vince Bell off 19th position on the grid. He's made a few good moves up the leaderboard. They're on their 3rd lap, and it's still Willie just shading his good mate and rival Mick Kelly on the Fairburn Cranes, and just waiting for something to happen. Matthew Graham on his RB Racing Honda R. Oh, look at these two.
He's watching. They're having a real ding-dong, and Matthew Graham just sitting back there watching all this happening and waiting for the opportunity to take advantage.
He's probably waiting for them to come together so he can move up the inside, but he's got a bird's eye view of this excellent dice here in the opening leg of the Glen Cameron Group Aussie 125 race. Up over Lukey Heights. Mick Kelly's got a good drive up the hill, nice and tight there. Willie tucks it in tight, the real defensive line coming in MG, and Graham, he had great corner speeds. Oh, here comes Willie again. Up the inside through turn 11, the old cops. Side by side as they tip it into turn 12.
Put it in under him. now we'll see who's got the slipstream advantage.
I'll see if Mick Kelly can bridge the gap.
Front, and Kelly's going to try to get in his slipstream and have a good toe down the straight. There he goes. And I tell you what, Graham's nearly close enough to tag onto him this time around.
Willie pulls out alongside. He does side by side again, but Willie's got the good outside line. Managed to hold a bit more corner speed going in there, and shuffled Kelly back to second, with Graham just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And they've distanced themselves from the rest of the field by a great margin. But look at this gaggle of bikes there. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them lying astern coming down the straight. So while we're concentrating on the action at the front, there's still plenty of action going on for the minor placings. But Andrew Willie just in front of Mick Kelly with Matthew Graham in 3rd. Matthew Graham has a look at Kelly then. Very close going into the first hairpin. And then it's Peter Campbell on bike number 5 back in 5th spot. And bike number 61, that was Peter Scott in 5th spot. So many different lines coming into the hairpin there, Peter.
There was, wasn't there? He's back with the leaders on the super screen.
I think Kelly's going to try something to move up here, but gee, Willie's got a good 5 bike length lead as they go over Lukey Heights.
And they've dropped Matthew Graham off a bit. He's lost the toe, so...
He's probably seen him get a bit close, and he thought, I'm not having any of that. Like, you guys can just battle it out first, and I'll pick up the scraps.
Kelly trying to get the run onto Willie onto the straight here.
And tucking down under the fairing, trying to get as much slipstreaming advantage as he can. The aerodynamic guys here seem to be a bit big for the 125s at time, but Kelly got great drive on the Gardner Straight to complete their 4th lap. Side by side, basically, as they come down under the Chinzano Bridge to start their 5th lap. And Kelly, will he try up the inside? He tried last time but had the door shut. And this time he says, no way, Jose, I'm going to take this off you. Oh!
Runs it wide, and Willie's turned in and gone back into the lead again.
I wonder if he just had a little bit of front paddle there through those bumps going into turn 1.
I'd say so, and that's given the opportunity for Mick Graham to come back on the back of these two.
But it's not over yet. There's still another lap and a half to go. This is their penultimate lap of their 6-lap journey. And I'd say Mick Kelly's just going to return the favour once or twice in the next couple of circuits here as they head down into the hairpin. Oh, Graham there just, his aspirations got in front of that wet grass. He's held it up again. He's had more surprises then than a kid at his birthday party at the moment. The way he was carrying on there, went really deep under brakes. I think he missed his braking mark completely looking at the rear end of Mick Kelly's bike. But here we are.
He nearly had the big Kelly's bike.
He's got the back end off the ground as he tries to hold it up. How close was that?
That was very close.
And loses the front on the grass, now loses the rear again as he tries to turn the bike.
And then he's a bit aggressive trying to get back on the asphalt. Had it come around on him, but it looks like Willie's going to lead this round to the finish flag.
Yeah, he's just coming up through turn 11 now. They've got their last lap board coming out as they come across the start-finish line to start their 6th lap. So it's still...
Kelly's got in the slipstream again. He's going to be in a good position to lead into turn 1 on this last lap.
Side by side, who will make it stick? Kelly's got the inside line again. Will he hold it tight? Oh, this is great racing between these two guys. Discretion the better. Oh, what's happened here?
That, yeah.
Willie's just stayed up and said, come on, mate, you can have a go at this. I'll get you back. I'll just follow you for half a lap and see what you can do. And lucky Mick Kelly didn't see what happened to him the lap before when Matthew Graham overcooked it coming into the hairpin, but because he would have had a few palpitations. Kelly's just got a few bike length lead at the moment, but I don't think it's going to last for long as Willie has a good look. Oh! Shoves it across his nose, does Mick Kelly. And I think he's missed the gear coming out of there. Andrew Willie's shaking his head.
That's done it in for him.
You've only got to make one slight mistake in these 125s and it's all over for you. As Kelly now got a really commanding lead. I don't think he's going to let this one slip by. Through the fast hay shed. These guys had that thing pinned through there, wouldn't they, Pete?
Yeah, I think so. On 125 would be just full bore.
I reckon there'd be so much fun around here. The corner speeds you could get with these things would be unbelievable. Probably faster than a MotoGP bike at times, I'd say, the mid-corner speed of some of these things, particularly in the World Championship classes. But it's Mick Kelly on his Fairburn Cranes Honda RS 125 that'll be leading the way onto the straight to complete this first leg of the Glen Cameron Group Aussie 125 support races here at the 2004 Ginzano Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. Gets the checkered flag. A comfortable win after Andrew Willie missed that gear. He's backed it right off Andrew Willie to finish second. Brings it home in second on bike. No, I can't actually see bike number 81. I think while we were concentrating.
Yeah, he's gone through, so.
We'll get the results up on the Michelin Super Screen in a moment as we look at Brenda Ferrari waving the checkered flag and a replay of Mick Kelly crossing the line. And still a racing for the miners as they're coming onto the straight. There's about 4 of them.
Oh,
here.
look at this.
Oh, good close racing. Just these things old as far as compared to what the state-of-the-art technology in the World Championship racing, but it doesn't detract from the guys going out and having a lot of fun on these little things. Good way to start racing. Pretty cheap entry level. You can pick one up for about $10,000 to $12,000. Multitude of parts, and they all seem to 2003 bits fit the older versions and vice versa. But Andrew Willie winning the first leg of the Glen Cameron Group Aussie 125s.
What are we going to next?
And we'll see the good vision of the crowd there on the Michelin Super Screen. Good healthy crowd, and we'll go through it. It was Mick Kelly from Andrew Willie, 3.4 seconds in arrears. Matthew Graham recovered to finish in third, 11 seconds off the leaders, with Paul Campbell in fourth and Peter Scott in fifth. With Brad Hellier, Paul Hood, Chris Panayi, Bryce Van Hoof and Scott Emanuelson rounding out the top 10 of this opening leg of the Glen Cameron Aussie 125cc support races. There we go, right through the leaderboard. Vincent Bell, Roger Derrick, Stephen Wood, Bob Humphries and Jaron DePrada rounding out the 15 with Chris Bragood, Kevin Brooks, Ian Whitehead, Wade van der Arend and Toby Molyneux in 20th position. Just missing out on 19th by just half a second. Russell Malley, Mark Robertson, Andrew Evans, Angelo Guili and Paul Cook on the 25th position.